I'd like to start with the doctors on the first question. And so how important are preoperative diagnostics in managing the premium channel IOL patients? So you've got the mic there, so Pepose, why don't you start?
I think it's really important because if you're going to have a premium IOL and you don't have a premium cornea or a premium tear film, you're not going to get premium performance. So I think, for me, it's really critical in advising patients which IOL would be best for them. We know that there's different compromises for different types of premium IOLs, and I don't think it would be possible to function without these devices.
Warren?
Well, of course, the elephant in the room is always the IOL Power Selection. And one of the difficulties is it's a multi-part process, and the paradox of IOL power calculations is if every part is perfect but one part is wrong, what you get is a refractive surprise. And so it's a multi-part process where you have to get every part right. We're doing very good right now with diagnostics. With some of the newer biometers, we're doing much better on the cornea. The axial length is a slam dunk. But the formulas are an issue. And there have been certain solutions for like the long eyes, but the short eyes is still a challenge. So we still have a ways to go, but for the IOL Power Selection.
Vance?
I find my patients are wanting to more and more look at multifocality. And that's where, the technology has gotten so exciting that the diagnostics have become increasingly important to make sure I'm not adding a multifocal implant to a multifocal cornea. And so the idea of measuring the asphericity and the multifocality of the cornea has become extremely important in my patient selection.
And in our practice, one of the fundamental things we do now for every single patient undergoing cataract surgery is we look at the cornea. And an aberration profile is now de rigueur for every single patient. You can get hammered pretty quickly, even for a monofocal lens, if you have a lot of very unusual aberrations.
So real quickly, how many tests do you do on your typical pre-op patient now?
I think we do at least 6 or 7 tests right now.
6 or 7, yeah.
Right.
Warren?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
5.
Yeah, I think we're doing 6 or 7 too when you consider MAC OCT.
Yeah, so there's definitely a need. Wouldn't be bad to have them all in one instrument, so that would be interesting. So let's talk about the market. How big is it, and is there an opportunity there? So Dave, you study this area. What's the opportunity in diagnostics?
Well, first of all, just to kind of put a frame around this is a very rapidly growing area. It's just in its infancy. A lot of the products are on the market now, have been in the market for maybe 2 or 3 years at most, and the latest embodiment of these products maybe a year or less. So it's a very growing market. The second thing is it's really hard to define this market because where do you stop measuring? For instance, if you got an OCT that's included within a microscope, is that an intraoperative diagnostic or is that a microscope? But that being said, we tend to look at it narrowly, and right now it's about a $50 million market worldwide, but it almost doubled last year. So it's a rapidly growing area, and we think it's going to be a very important part of this industry.
In an area that really hasn't consolidated maybe as much as some of the other areas. So Tom Frinzi, you're an AMO, you're a little bit in diagnostics, but what do you think? Is this an area that you're going to be interested in?
No, I think without a doubt. I think diagnostics in general make a lot of sense. It certainly, from a pre-op point of view, establishes the surgical plan, and that's essential for an ophthalmologist to come to the market. And diagnostics, again, in general, are going to give you information that you'd want to know. And I think the degree to which an ophthalmologist is going to act on that information depends on the consistency and accuracy and the predictability of that data. And I think therein lies the opportunity.
So Ludwin, you've been a major leader in this area. Does it still excite your team? Are you still seeing more opportunities? Is there growth ahead?
Yeah, as you could hear in our presentation, there are a lot of ideas how to really improve the refractive outcome in cataract surgery, and that's a clear need which then drives technology developments. In biometry, with the introduction of the IOL Master 700, you could see it. We really see a growing demand because it clearly improves outcomes. Regarding the market, I would agree what Dave just said. It's difficult to define because I was just talking about biometry, but we integrate the biometry with the surgical workplace, as you could see, right? So, it's not just a device, it's an overall system, which makes up an interesting market. And again, the outcome drives the dynamics in that market.
Great. So back to the docs. We have one who uses 5 and 2 who use 7 preoperative diagnostics. Do we still have unmet needs? Do we have everything we need? But what would you like to have that you don't have? So Vance, why don't we start with you?
Well, as a refractive surgeon, we have amazing lasers, inlays, and implants now that are FDA approved. And so to really, choose the best technology for that patient, the diagnostics have been amazing. But if I was going to dial it down to even a little bit more specifics, it would be to take that corneal multifocality and actually be able to understand it on like, for instance, a multifocal basis. I have multiple ads, and what level of spherical aberration is okay to add with that multifocality. I know in general, I start to worry at 0.3, 0.4 RMS, but I know I can get more and more accurate that with each of the implants. And so I think matching these diagnostics to each of the specific technologies would be very, very helpful.
And one of the areas that's so important, especially with multifocal lenses, is back to the idea of an aberration profile. Each of the Zernike polynomials reduce contrast in different ways, and some of them are just an absolute killer for a multifocal lens, like coma. If I see greater than 0.3 microns vertical or horizontal coma, run in the other direction, don't even think about putting a multifocal lens in. So maybe establishing some guidelines as to how an aberration profile can guide us in terms of, do we put in a toric IOL, do we put in a multifocal IOL, when do we say no, and when do we feel confident proceeding? So more information.
Okay.
I think as we have more and more IOLs available to us, for example, extended depth of focus IOLs, these may be less sensitive to some of these aberrations. So I think that we're going to use the technology to advise a patient that this is the type of compromise. We're always offering a compromise, right? We're always offering a compromise in exchange for depth of focus until we get a lens that's truly accommodating. So for 3 to 4 diopters. And so until we reach that point, I think that the diagnostics, the 2 most important things in my mind, I think has been said, is that impact the performance of a lens is your corneal aberrations and your centration. So we need to know angle kappa, we need to know the corneal wavefront. And we need to know, is that test reliable, repeatable? Or are we just measuring the tear film? And if we repeated the measurements again, will we get a totally different result? And it'd be nice to have all that in one instrument that also gives us a reliability of the measurement.
So, David, again, I'm going to start with you on this one, but as you do your surveys, are you seeing significant investment occurring by industry? And then I'm going to ask the company people if they, in their plans, have significant investment going forward to meet some of these unmet needs. And also, can you get a good return on investment in diagnostics? It used to be, I would say that pharmaceuticals seem like a better return than devices better than diagnostics. Is there any change occurring in that thought?
Well, I think one key component in here, particularly with these intraoperative measurements and some of the office measurements, is that they're enabling other technologies. So if you're a big manufacturer in the premium IOL market, for instance, I think it's probably one of the strategies behind Alcon's move into diagnostics in the OR is by making better diagnostics in the OR, you can improve the results with premium IOLs, thereby selling more premium IOLs, which sell for a lot more than regular IOL. So it's an enabling technology. Also, there are so many changes going on in technology with better and faster microprocessors, more advanced storage systems to keep data, more advanced ways to transfer data back and forth. A lot of things are all of a sudden, you're able to do those things by taking existing technology and just bringing these new things to the forefront and allowing you to do different things. We've really seen this with OCT. I mean, OCT, the initial versions of OCT were very limited in what they can do. And the basic technology now, if you carry it all the way forward with some of the swept source angiography that's going on, I mean, this is a huge advancement with much more detail, much more useful. And so all of that is going on. So if you just look at it on a byproduct basis, a lot of times you can't justify the investment. You know, maybe the original investment in OCT, you know, didn't pay off on those first few units, but now, you know, 5 generations later, with all these advances and with OCT becoming a standard product for almost every practice in some form or another, you know, it starts to pay off. And so I think you're seeing even more investment than you've seen in the past there.
And Dick, one other area where I think industry could help us out a lot is in decision making. Now, with all of these amazing devices that give us better and better information, we need to integrate this into a surgical planner, perhaps with our electronic medical records. It's one thing to have all this information, but we need it in one place that helps us with decision making. So I think EMRs have to grow up a little bit that way as well.
Yeah, I would echo that, because when you think about the unmet need to the previous question, I think less about technology and more about workflow efficiency. As you said, Dick, there's multiple instruments. You all are using them.
And decision making.
To be able to bring that together in a reliable, dependable way to ease how you're working up patients, I think is a real opportunity out there. I also think ELP, the ability to measure, truly measure and understand ELP is kind of an opportunity that's out there for discovery, if you will. And I think the question on return on investment, Dick, I would agree, Dave, with your comments. It is a halo effect. It's less about the organic revenue that diagnostic drives for our business and more about the pull-through capability, particularly marrying diagnostics to state-of-the-art optics that we have, I think is a wonderful combination. We're committed to it and certainly investing in it.
So we'll give you the final comment because you have choices to invest going forward. And, you know, are you still excited about investing in diagnostics?
Absolutely. I mean, you can see, and you can see it, could see it from the market chart that Zeiss actually, that diagnostics, ophthalmic diagnostics for Zeiss is a major part of our overall business. So we heavily invest into this, and we clearly see the opportunity. Having this breadth of our portfolio, we can exactly do what was just discussed here, to integrate things, right, and bring all the information where it's needed and where the decision is made. You know, we have this data backbone, and that's exactly the idea of our overall strategy. So definitely we'll continue to invest. Regarding the return on invest, I mean, there's an interesting, you said that, if you look at it on a product by product or category based, well, it might be tough because let's take the biometry segment and let's assume it's, I don't know how much, 150 million size, right? So the industry can spend, let's say, between 5 and 10% of that per year in research and development. So it would be between 7 and 15 million a year. That's not very much, right? For all the companies. So you have to distribute it to all the companies. So what is needed here to make it really to give the return of the investment is platforms, right? And OCT, and you described it very nicely. In my company, we are using OCT in so many different fields. This is really a good example. So we have it in retina diagnostics, we have it intraoperatively in the microscope, we have it in biometry. And that's very important to get that return of the investment. So yeah, we are committed to it, of course.
So I'd like to thank the panelists. I hope you found that useful and interesting. And thanks, Vance.